Hello butterflies, I am reading a book today and I know you've seen this in class. It's called Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim Go Together Like. Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim go together like hello and goodbye. That's Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim. Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim. There's our name. Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim share together like peanut butter and jelly, milk and cookies, and please and thank you. Mrs. Kim and Mrs. Young. We're having a picnic. Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim learn together like reading and writing and question and answer. Can you spot where our names are? Look for the Y and look for the K. Somewhere here. Look, Mrs. Kim is raising her hand and Mrs. Young is reading. Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim create together like canvas and easel and paint and brush. Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim play together like pitcher and catcher, basket and ball, and bow and arrow. Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim celebrate together like cake and ice cream. We're having a party. They fish together like rod and reel. You see that? Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim fight together like dogs and cats. Uh-oh. And push and pull. Uh-oh. That's not nice. Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim go together like happy and sad and right and wrong. It's Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim. Oh, they look so sad. Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim go together like hot and cold and thunder and lightning. Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim come together like sunshine and rainbows. Rainbows. Look at that. Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim meet in the middle like day and night and light up the sky like the sun and the moon. The end. Mrs. Young and Mrs. Kim. We miss you so very much. You guys have a wonderful weekend. We love you.